Back here in our area, one person was hurt and another is without a home after an apartment fire in Fayetteville. Last night, crews managed to contain the flames to one home at Market View Court. A person who lived in a nearby unit went to the hospital for minor injuries. We don't have any word yet on just what caused that fire. Two people were hurt in a motorcycle crash here in Raleigh. Police responded to Wake Forest Road last night where a car collided with a motorcycle. We are told the two people on the motorbike were hurt, but they are expected to be okay. We are working to find out whether any charges could be filed and what exactly led to that crash. We're following some breaking news now. A man wanted in Georgia for murdering his girlfriend is in jail in Granville County. The sheriff says investigators tracked his cell phone here to North Carolina. He turned up last night in a hotel parking lot and led troopers on a chase along Interstate 85 northbound. The man was found early this morning in a shed along US 158 bypass. His name, Keatron Foots. He's from DeKalb County, Georgia. That's in the metro Atlanta area. He is charged there with murder. Investigators say he shot his girlfriend 23 times. Now, the staff at the U.S. consulate in St. Petersburg, Russia, is moving out and shutting down operations. This comes after Russia ordered 60 American diplomats to leave the country. The U.S. diplomats loaded items onto trucks and walked off with all their belongings. The American flag was also removed from the consulate. The expulsion is Russia's response to the U.S. and other countries' similar actions after the poisoning of that former Russian spy and his daughter in Great Britain. We have some sad news to report from Fort Bragg this morning. A soldier deployed overseas has died. The Department of Defense says Master Sergeant Jonathan J. Dunbar died on Friday after he was injured by an improvised explosive device, IED, in Syria. Dunbar is from Austin, Texas. He was assigned to the U.S. Army Special Operations Command at Fort Bragg. A British soldier was also killed in that explosion. This week, President Trump hinted that the U.S. could be withdrawing troops from Syria very soon. Now to the Triad, where a 60-year-old man is dead after an officer shot him this weekend. Winston-Salem police say Officer D.E. McGuire pulled over a car with 3 people inside Friday night. McGuire says Edward McCrae was making, quote, suspicious movements in the car. Police say Officer McGuire told McCrae to stop reaching for something, but the man didn't comply. McCrae was taken out of the car, and police say Officer McGuire commanded him, quote, not to reach for the gun. Here's a neighbor to explain what she heard next.
I heard somebody scream, no, 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 no. And split second, pow, 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 pow. And I jumped up, ran to the window, and I looked out and I saw a man laying there on the ground.
Officer McGuire has been placed on administrative duty until the SBI investigation is complete, and that's protocol in these situations. You know, time is of the essence when an active shooter is on the loose. We've seen this played out more times than we care to remember in our country. Responding first isn't the only thing, first and fast. Gilbert Bay shows us a training exercise in Fayetteville that was all about teaching first responders how to work together. And some more breaking news. A teen is now charged with attempted murder after a shooting that injured a deputy in Harnett County, a Harnett County deputy. James Eric Cook, the deputy, was shot in the chest and face along a wooded path in Cameron. Now, he is recovering at a hospital. Investigators identified the shooting suspect as 16-year-old Mario Alexander Garcia III. He was reported missing on Friday. Deputy Cook saw him, and after he approached the young man, there was some kind of exchange, and then shots were fired. The Pentagon says the strikes that targeted 3 chemical weapons facilities in Syria were a success. The White House says President Trump spoke with the British Prime Minister and with the French President to discuss this joint operation. The missile strike was a message to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad after the U.S. says his government killed dozens of his own people in a chemical weapons attack a week ago. Assad and ally Russia denied that attack ever even happened. The UN Security Council rebuffed Russia's motion to condemn the U.S. missile attack. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley also issued a strong new warning.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place here, Hope Reigns, a faith-based organization that harnesses the healing power of horses, of the outdoors. Naturally, such a beautiful place gives rise to beautiful stories, like this one, 251 pages, about a horse named Joey.
Well, on a day when there was no threat, when everything went right, the story shifts.
7 hours later, it's about the students caught inside, the parents who picked them up, and what we can learn from this experience. WRAL's Bryan Mims starts our live team coverage now with stories from the campus. Bryan.
Deborah, students told us they crouched beneath desks. They huddled together in corners. They barricaded classroom doors with filing cabinets. They kept quiet. And they clutched their phones like lifelines.
We didn't hear a whole lot. All we know is that they got 3. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
What did they say?
It was 7 intruders. They got 4. 3 are still missing, but we can line up to get our kids.
If you're a parent, it's the worst feeling in the world. Showing up at your kid's school with so many other parents fearing the worst after your kid sends a text like this.
She was on lockdown. She didn't know what was going on, and that she loved me.
If you're a parent, that kind of message makes nothing else matter in the world. And like Susan Cuevas, you forget work duties and ignore speed limits.
And I jumped out of the car and I just ran all the way to the school. And I just wanted to know that, see their faces. I wanted to hug them and just know that they were okay.
Because this is the world we live in. Post-Stoneman Douglas, post-Columbine, and only 3 weeks removed from the most recent school massacre, the Intercom announcement that West Johnston High was on lockdown came fraught with tension.
You say the person making the announcement sounded panicked.
Yeah, she sounded really panicked when she first came on with the intercom.
Can we talk with you, sir?
I'm trying to get my daughter right now.
Because this is the world we live in. These teenagers have grown up with lockdown drills. But student Jeremiah Barber says no drill could drown the fear.
I thought I was gonna die.
You thought you were gonna die?
Yes. I said a little prayer and I just told my family I loved them. That was the end for me. Everything just went blank.
At last, the all clear. Parents and students rushed into a mass embrace.
When it came to my 2 boys, they're all I have. They're my babies in my life, and I'll do anything I have to do to protect them.
If you're a parent, it's the best feeling in the world.
One student told me, yes, there was some crying, but like so many of her classmates, she clutched her phone and tapped out the words, "I love you." Deborah and Ken.
What an ordeal for these parents. And WRAL's Bryan Mims traveled to Richmond, Virginia today and spoke with Stephen Platel's attorney. Bryan?
That attorney says he last spoke with Stephen just a week ago about a mundane matter. Stephen simply asked what he should wear to court. The lawyer says there was never the slightest indication that Stephen would harm Katie or the baby or himself or anybody else. Here on Locust Grove Court, northwest of Richmond, they had all lived together in this house as a family. Stephen Platel, his then wife Alyssa, 2 young children, and Katie. Now 18, Katie had moved in with her biological parents who had put her up for adoption as a baby. But investigators say Stephen and Katie fell into an incestuous relationship, moved to Nightdale, and had a son together. Richmond lawyer Rick Friedman represented Stephen. Where was this case going? Was it going to trial?
It is very unlikely that this case was going to trial.
Friedman says all parties were working to strike a deal that would best serve the family.
This is an unusual case that deciding how to punish someone for this case is difficult. How do you punish a biological parent by putting that parent in jail, keeping that parent away from the child?
Alyssa Platel, Stephen's ex-wife, says she learned that he and Katie were intimate by reading her 11-year-old daughter's diary. She no longer lives in this house on Locust Grove. Nobody answered when I went to the door. Here's Alyssa in an interview with the UK's Daily Mail earlier this year.
I lost it. I started screaming. I felt like I was going to throw up.
Why did he think it was okay to have this relationship with Katie?
I wish I knew.
But he thought clearly that it was okay to have this relationship. He didn't think anything was wrong with it.
No doubt about it.
But Friedman says his client did not see Katie as his daughter. Indeed, they were strangers for 18 years, and disputes the claim by Stephen's ex-wife that Katie was brainwashed.
I don't have any indication that anything was going on except for two adults who chose to be in a relationship together.
In the interview with the UK's Daily Mail, Alyssa Platel made it abundantly clear that she had no sympathy for her ex-husband and demanded that he serve time in prison. Incest would have put them both in prison for up to 10 years. She did not want her daughter Katie to be in prison, but rather to undergo therapy and rebuild her life. We did reach Alyssa by cell phone, on her cell phone today, but she refused to do interviews with anybody. Back to you.
It's a new season in Rocky Mount. Things are blooming and booming. In downtown, an indoor sports complex called the Event Center is nearing completion. Down by the river, life is flowing back into a long-shuttered cotton mill.
Well, we opened a business at the mills, the Goat Island Bottle Shop.
29-year-old Christy Ellis and her husband recently moved from Durham to open a brewery at Rocky Mount Mills, which Capital Broadcasting, parent company of WRAL, is redeveloping.
So there is just a lot of opportunity to bring something new to the people here that they didn't have.
But on paper, you'd think the city is withering. Census numbers show Rocky Mount lost more than 5,600 people between 2010 and 2017, with its surrounding counties, Edgecombe and Nash, also shedding residents. So what gives?
Some of it goes back to the days of Floyd.
That's David Ferris, president of the Rocky Mount Chamber of Commerce. The floods of Floyd in '99 chased people away and dried up jobs. But he says the global marketplace changed too, wounding rural economies.
And now we're sort of refocused. We know what we're going after. We know what we need. We've got 2 great community colleges.
And jobs are coming. About 800 jobs will roll in when China-based Triangle Tire builds a plant in Edgecombe County.
I see a large movement of people coming here to live.
Caffeinating the economy. Sam Brothers, former cop, Missouri transplant, is opening Track's Coffee Bar downtown.
I have no question whatsoever that we will be a mainstay in downtown Rocky Mount. Look around us. There's some good things happening here.
Things are blooming. It's a new season. Bryan Mims, WRAL News, Rocky Mount.
We will not go away. We will not go away.
They gathered outside the Wake County Justice Center, chanting, praying. They gathered with messages biblical and political and personal. Sandra Marquinez joined the gathering, absent her husband, Jose Chicas, a father of 4. He faces deportation and is now confined to a church in Durham. He fled El Salvador's civil war 33 years ago and has lived in the U.S. ever since.
Emotionally, his spirits are high.
He's one of 5 immigrants in North Carolina who have sought sanctuary at a church. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has a policy not to arrest people at houses of worship. And so their supporters gathered to march.
Immigrants are welcome here, no hate, no fear.
On to the state capitol to keep the likes of Jose Chicas beneath the red, white, and blue.
This is a man that has lived here for 33 years, causing no harm to anybody, living his life, learning and loving.
The pastor of another Durham church, offering sanctuary to a Mexican immigrant, told those gathered to keep gathering.
He needs us to make public demonstrations so that people can see and hear, and I hope people are listening.
What these demonstrators see is a national backlash against immigration.
And I believe, as a person of faith, that we should be welcoming immigrants and being grateful to them.
I believe that there's been a bitter taste on the tongue of America when it comes to talking about immigration.
And so they gathered with a message that rolls off the tongue.
Immigrants are welcome here, no hate.
Bryan Mims, WRAL News, Raleigh.